Welcome, my name's Carl Schoner. I work with GEM Sensors as a product manager. One of the products I represent is the M103 panel meter, which is shown here. It's also shown with two sensors. These sensors work with the meter. Both sensors put out a pulse output device. One's called the rotor flow, the other is the turbo flow, but both of them give a pulse output device that this meter it can work with. This meter also has the ability to give you a total as well as a rate. The total, like I say, when you're driving a car or something, it would be your total trip that you take, 700 miles or so, that's your total. Your rate would be like your speed. And in terms of flow, it would be in gallons per minute and then maybe total gallons. How you actually program the meter to display in gallons, all you have to know is from the sensor, how many pulses come out of the sensor equal a gallon. The sensor that I'm hooking up to it, I know what it is, it's 10,000 some odd. How I know it is, there's two ways, either on the spec sheet, also every meter comes with a manual explaining how to do this. Another thing we have made up is a little cheat sheet. The main thing is knowing how many pulses you can program it. When you actually go to program it, you don't need the sensor wired to it. You do need a AC plugged into the meter, and then your sensor wired into the meter can be done later on. To actually do it, you need a jumper between terminal 1 and 5, and that lets you into the calibration mode. So when you're in the calibration mode, let us go through it. There's going to be 6 steps. We're at step 1. This is where we're actually going to enter in the calibration factor for your total gallons a minute. As we can see, the number that's been placed in here is 0.0094. The math will be shown to you separately. And again, it's only derived by knowing the number of pulses that equal 1 gallon. When we look at it, actually how you actually change the number, you'll use this key on the far right to light up the point or the digit that you want to change. You then use the other key to scroll down to it. I'm going to leave it the number that I have in there. The math has already been done. It's 0.0094. You scroll to the end. When you're ready to move on to step 2, you press your down arrow, you go to step 2. What step 2 is where do I want my decimal point for the total? Do I want it to be 1.0 gallons, 1.00 gallons? In this case, I've chosen 2, but again, when you look at the choices, you could choose 3, 4, 5. You could choose none, meaning just count in increments of 1 gallon. Let's leave it where I had it at 2 decimal places. We're done with step 2. We move on to step 3. Step 3 is setting the decimal point for the scaling factor we're going to put in for rate. Again, it's just a mathematical formula, knowing the number of pulses that come out of the meter that equal 1 gallon. See the little decimal point lining up? As I press the R button, it just lights up into a different spot. I want it all the way to the far left to enter my scaling factor. The scaling factor that I'm going to put in there is 0.006 for this sensor. How you actually put it in, again, is you just choose the digit that you want to change, use the other key to change it. Let me leave it where I have it, which is 0.006 for this meter. You're at the end, you press the down key, you go to step 5. Step 5 is the actual decimal point that you want the thing to read out when you're in rate. Such as right now, it's going to read 1.000 gallons per minute or 2.000 gallons per minute. Again, we can change that to nothing, off, 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places. The choice is yours, Jay, just toggling through that right-hand key. Let's leave it at 3 and move on to step 6. Step 6 just says on or off. It'll give you a choice of, and that's when you're in the total mode, whether you reset it or not. Meaning it just counts increments upwards in the total mode forever. But maybe at some point in time, just like your trip odometer on your car, you want to reset it to 0. So I'll leave it on, and that way when I press the R key, when it's in the run mode, it'll reset to 0. We are actually done now with programming the sensor. Right now it's in the count mode, in the totalization mode. It will just increment upwards forever and never stop. The other mode is the rate mode. If you sever the jumper on the back for the calibration mode, you never get back into the calibration again, and all the customer has access to, or your end user has access to, is just the button on the front to toggle between total and rate. Let's blow through the sensor, and you'll see that the number will just increase in a positive manner. So this is how many gallons would actually be going through the sensor. The sensor's made it up to about 0.13 or 0.14. And because I have step number 6 on, I can reset it back to 0. The next thing to take a look at is, let's take a look at what is our actual rate. Right now, nothing's going through the sensor. It's 0.000 gallons per minute. As I blow through it, it changes. It has a little built-in delay, and as you can see, we made it up to 1 gallon a minute it spun, and it, again, decays on down to 0. The meter is now scaled with the sensor, and it is working. One thing to note, what I have here is an M103 panel meter hooked with a power supply. This is an option. If you do not get the option of the power supply, you can use the meter alone, which is nice for a boat application or a car application. It just has lithium batteries in it. It would not have a backup light on it. It would just be the LCD display, and you would use the 12 volts from your car to power the sensor, and then the sensor would just go to the meter. So this is 2 items from GEMS that you buy, as opposed to just 1 for the meter, which you could buy alone. If you have any questions, call 1-800-378-1600, and thank you very much.